It's so great to see everyone here today at the first GPN conference. Um, so I'm going to take a little bit of time to share about our possibility mentoring program, which is, you know, completely inspired by Mike's work with possibility development. And I will start by showing a quote from Mike's book um, that connects, that explains what possibility development is. And it really, I can't explain it better than what Mike just did. I'll just point out that, that this is a collaborative group effort, like Mike was saying, and how do you enact all these different supports to allow people to imagine things, to develop skills, to develop confidence, and all of that. Um, Possibility mentoring, which I'll talk about in a lot of different facets, and I'll show you a video that Penn GSC did about the program, and then after that we'll transition to hearing about research from 2 consecutive years of the project. But Mike often talks about opportunity gaps that are out there for youth, and possibility mentoring. We want to bridge some of those gaps and create opportunities for students that don't necessarily have them. And we believe that this work can have lifelong impact. We want to study it and see how it works longitudinally and track our students, over a long period of time, so we can really understand what that impact is. To see everyone here today at the first GPN conference. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to share about our possibility mentoring program, which is, completely inspired by Mike's work with possibility development. And I will start by showing a quote from Mike's book that connects, that explains what possibility development is. And it really, I can't explain it better than what Mike just did. I'll just point out that, that this is a collaborative group effort, like Mike was saying, and how do you enact all these different supports to allow people to imagine things, to develop skills, to develop confidence, and all of that. Possibility mentoring, which I'll talk about in a lot of different facets, and I'll show you a video that Penn GSC did about the program, and then after that we'll transition to hearing about research from 2 consecutive years of the project. But Mike often talks about opportunity gaps that are out there for youth, and possibility mentoring. We want to bridge some of those gaps and create opportunities for students that don't necessarily have them. And we believe that this work can have lifelong impact. We want to study it and see how it works longitudinally and track our students, over a long period of time, so we can really understand what that impact is. But we do have some promising initial findings from our action research and study of that it seems that there's an impact in the short term and potentially the long term for our students and our mentors. So what is possibility development, possibility mentoring? It draws from possibility development with those aspects of imagination, skills, and confidence. We want our students to imagine life and career pathways. We want them to choose what skills they need to develop to get there and support them in developing those skills. And even with imagination and skills, confidence is critically important. If you don't have the confidence to put your plan in action and do it, then you're not really able to progress as much as you might want. Mike described the 5-step process. That's a real essential part of what we do. I'll explain that a little more in a moment. And something that's really important about how we do possibility mentoring, we do it in group sessions. Like in the past 4 years, at times we've had groups as large as 4. Our ideal group, we think, is a group of 3. And what happens is how mentees support each other in the process, And, as Mike may have mentioned, or he talks a lot about how almost all mentoring is done on one-on-one situations. And we think that, group mentoring might be able to have a larger impact, and certainly introduces new elements in what's possible for learning and growth, for mentor and mentees. I'm not going to review the possibility, the 5-step process. Mike did a great job doing that. I will point out that sometimes, um, our students our mentors and mentees, they go through this process at different rates. Sometimes with our mentees, they might not, they might ask what their interests are. They might have trouble developing what their interests are. So just figuring out what their interests are, sometimes we take more time with that. And typically the exploring interests and prioritizing of interest, that often could take a long period of time as well. Like, why these interests are important, how can I explore the different ones and figure out which ones are the most important to me. We've had students that go through our process that go through all 5 steps and then repeat. And we've had others that don't get to the 5th step. And that's okay in the year, because they're doing important work wherever they are. And our mentors are trying to respond to the students and work with them in the ways that they need. Um, I don't want to overdo the details of this and tell you all the different statistics, but I will give you some background on the program. The pilot began in 2018. Mike and I did this out of a research class that he teaches. We asked volunteers who wanted to work in a school setting, starting this program. And I think 17 of the students of a 31 student class decided they wanted to do it. So we'd meet before the class. I'd take them to the site. We would do support, on a weekly basis with them. And we tried it out that one year in 2018. And then we expanded it to a full year program the following year. We've worked in 3 sites in the Philadelphia area over the past 4 years, 2 of the sites in Philadelphia, 1 adjacent to Philadelphia. And we've worked with middle school kids. And these are kids that are 10 to 14 years old, from 6th to 8th grade. At our current main site, we mentor the whole middle school, every kid. All the sites we've worked with are typically under resource school, and we know this because 100% of the students get free or reduced lunch, and that's a marker for that. We try to do our sessions to last 40 or 45 minutes. In some years, we've been limited to having sessions in some sites on some days be as little as 30 minutes, but we really like to get closer to 45. And in the last year, it's been an interesting adventure doing completely virtual mentoring in this pandemic. And we were kind of wondering how that would work. And it pretty much, did, with a little bit of messiness. Okay, so one of the things that really allows this program to work is how much we try to support it. And you can see a picture there of some of our mentors. They're probably working on their final reports. And we meet weekly in this space that you see to do different kinds of professional development. And a lot of that is, focused on whatever content that needs to be learned, whatever skill stuff needs to be developed, how to build relations with, the relational instrumentality part of this is we want to build strong relations with students. That's a big part of mentoring. But we also, instrumentality, we want to equip them with some content, skill development, the possibility development kind of stuff that we try to do. Oftentimes our PD sessions, we do debriefing from the field, and we do this work in small groups and in large groups, helping people understand problems of practice, what happens, how to adjust. And like we have group mentoring where the student peers support each other, often in our PD sessions, the mentors are supporting each other with ideas and ways in which to conduct mentoring more successfully. And we've learned a lot of things. Like, for example, one of the things we learned is engaging students in projects and across different modalities that are responsive to their interests makes a big difference. Like, you can often have really good conversations and learning and growth while you're drawing something or manipulating something or creating something like that. A big part of the PD sessions, we also do sharing from our research memos and our action research process. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a future slide. And we also support students in developing their mid-year reports and their final reports. We really want to understand what's happening, how it's working, and evaluate it in a continual way. Action research is a really important part of how we know what's happening. We have this giant question: how is this working? And the biggest tool in which we understand this is through research memos that the mentors complete after each experience in the field. And they do these after 24 hours. Within 24 hours, we try to encourage them to write this. And it has a descriptive component and an analytical component. They write about what happened, kind of trying to just detail all the different things that happened during a session. And then they try to make meaning out of it in the analytical thing. Often they're raising questions and taking an inquiry stance in that. We have our general question of how is this working? It's a very simple question, but it's a very important one. And then each student, each mentor, each grad student develops their own specific action research question. And this question might be collective. They might work with another partner to do it. And I've listed a couple examples of some of those questions on the slide. You know, a lot of it's about engagement, about using certain modalities, about knowing how the different peers help each other. You know, a lot of it's focused around positive development. I mean, sometimes it's looking about how mentors give students space to tell their stories and how storytelling affects the mentoring. Sometimes it's about, you know, there's one particular group of 3 mentors that studied their use of sharing different languages with students during sessions and how that enhanced the experience. And there's sometimes people study the cross-cultural connections. You know, often we have the kids are different, have different backgrounds than the mentors, and that creates interesting opportunities for growth and learning. We're also very interested in single subject research that Mike Rovine is an expert in and has been giving us guidance in. We have check-ins and goals and skill trackers. Some of the check-ins, like the check-ins, ask questions to kids to rate how they're doing in areas like sleep and homework and family and school and friends. And that provides talking, but it also, we have like a number that goes along with that we can collect over time and study how things change for particular kids. And kids set up goals and track and skill trackers where they rank how they're doing in the progress towards different goals and skills. And that's something that we can use with single subject research. So that was, before we go to the next part of that, I'm going to share with you a quick video of we have on the program. And let me get that keyed up for you. And I'm not as fast at this as I'd like to be, but we're almost there. Okay, so hopefully you will all be able to hear this. Possibility development is basically about, you know, pathways and or futures, and then working on skills that help you get there. The design of the mentoring program is a group mentoring thing. Most mentoring programs are one-on-one, and most mentoring programs focus on the relationship between the mentee and the mentor, and that's really important.
I realized that there was this deficit in our middle school where, you know, we're trying to prepare these students for everything that's coming next. You know, we kind of house them here for sometimes 6, 7, 8, 10 years, and we can look over them and make sure that they're safe and make sure that they're going where they need to go, but what happens next? So last year was just our 7th grade group, our current 8th graders. And what we saw was the students were into it. They loved it. They connected with the grad students almost immediately. As we saw that it was working so well with our 7th graders, I sat down with Andy and with Mike, and we tried to figure out, well, how can we expand this?
Every week we have research meetings for 2 hours with our grad students, and we equip them with skills, with knowledge, techniques. We do problems of practice. They bring stuff that they've done. We talk about it. The primary place in which we learn about the impact of what happens is from the research memos of the graduate students. So they write about what they see in a given day. So what ends up playing out is that the social-emotional learning teaching capacity of mentors improve. Trauma-informed practice lenses get adopted, and that work gets done. And they look at where they see growth, where there wasn't growth, where there was resistance, where there might not be, and different kinds of things.
So I think have a person to talk with them and who they can trust is very important for their development. You can see like they really need someone to talk to, someone that's being consistent, who always they can expect to appear at certain point of time. This mentoring program actually helped me to refine my research interests. So now what I want to do is to explore further in the diverse social interactions, social relationships in adolescents, and how those relationships gonna promote or influence the healthier patterns of adolescent development.
Our students know that the mentors are here as a non-judgmental support for them, that when they come into school, they have this person that's going to acknowledge their strengths. How I really start to quantify success here is just what I see. It's through these relationships, and these kids and these graduate students are building relationships for this year, yes, but many of them are building relationships that are going to have an impact beyond this year or next year. It's going to have an impact for their whole lives, and I love seeing that.